Hi everyone, if you haven't seen me before, my name is Casey, and for years on this channel, I used to make daily videos covering the Bay Area sports teams, but there was no team I covered more than the Oakland Athletics. Maybe because there's 162 games in a season, and that's a lot of baseball to talk about, but I really covered it all, from the relocation saga, to trades, to recapping every game from certain seasons, to going to the Coliseum multiple times per week, and vlogging and showing off the limited amenities that the Coliseum offered. So the point was, I really poured my heart and soul into the Oakland A's, and to see them move was heartbreaking. This was a team that I cared about a lot. It was the last team in Oakland, at least professionally, that, I could really hang my hat on and really care about. And especially, in the wake of the Warriors and Raiders moving, as an East Bay guy, I cared a lot. And so for the A's to move, it really hurt. And so in this video, I want to break it down into two parts, because this week I did something I didn't really expect myself to do when the Sacramento move was announced, and that's attend a game at Sutter Health Park. And so I want to talk about first my fandom of Major League Baseball and how it's changed over time, because I haven't talked about the A's in a long time. I made a preview video on this year because I genuinely thought this team could be exciting, and they're losing a lot of games this year, so maybe that is not very much the case. But I want to talk about how that's changed and my opinions on the move as a whole, in retrospect, as I covered it along the way, really, every day in the height of it, as I covered the A's pretty much, daily on this channel from 2020 to 2023, in that range. And so up and down years for the A's on and off the field. And then the second half of this video, I want to talk about my experience as a whole at Sutter Health Park, kind of an op-ed looking into, what amenities does Sutter Health Park offer? What does the media not tell you about Sutter Health Park? And what does it tell you that can be reassured? Because obviously the media has not been kind to the Sacramento experience for rightful reasons in a lot of ways. But I think there are positives that you can take from going to a Sacramento A's game, whether or not you're a fan and whether or not you are upset about the move. Because I know I certainly am, years later at this point, as, it's not news that the A's are going to Las Vegas. They have announced the move. It's all but done at this point. I mean, of course, groundbreaking coming up. We don't know what that exactly means. So let's get into the first half of this video. I want to just talk to you guys kind of one-to-one here about how my fandom has changed and my opinions on the A's as a whole. It's no secret that I was the biggest A's fan out there. I mean, I bought merch every day. I poured my heart and soul into this team, living and dying Oakland A's baseball, whether or not they were winning 80 games, 90 games, or only 60. It was all I really focused on. I loved this team through and through. And so to see them move was really disappointing. And, it's been some time. I've had time to digest the move at this point. I know they're not in Vegas yet, but I've had time to kind of reflect on what this team has meant to me and how that's changed. And look, I think at this point, the A's don't really have an established fan base anymore. I think there are still fans of the A's, of course. I mean, they're still getting some people out to Sutter Health Park, and there were some people that would show up to the Coliseum last year. But the point is, I mean, it's a divided fan base. There's people in Vegas who are surely probably excited about the A's coming. There's fans in Sacramento who are excited to have Major League Baseball. And then there's probably some people in Oakland who are still loyal to the green and gold. And, I can't hate on it. I mean, I think all the viewpoints are valid because, at the end of the day, it's sports. It's not life or death. You can support a team. You can have your opinions on them, and it's really no big deal. However, behind the scenes, the A's, of course, have been in a lot of turmoil, whether that be financially, whether that be with the stadium. And so it's no secret that the fan base has been divided because of that. And as a result, people aren't showing up to games as much. People, don't want to invest in a team that has a lot of uncertainty, whether that be in players or the front office stuff or the ownership stuff. So I totally want to just acknowledge the fact that, in no way am I wanting to justify the move by saying that I somewhat liked the Sacramento experience when I went, and, by supporting the A's financially by going to a game. Like, I don't support the move. However, I do think that the A's deserve some support because they're human beings playing on the field, right? These are young guys mostly. I mean, guys like Jacob Wilson, Nick Kurtz, Lawrence Butler, these are young guys in their 20s making their marks in Major League Baseball, some of which, like Jacob Wilson, he's the best shortstop in baseball. And so I think it's really interesting to see how these young guys adapt to a minor league park. And I feel bad for them because there's not a lot of people showing up. And the A's are a team that is hated on a lot. They used to be a team that kind of skated by, and, you know, people wouldn't really talk negatively about the A's, maybe would crack jokes at the fact that people weren't showing up. But now people hate the A's because of the move. And I'm not saying that's invalid, but I think it's unfair to the players a little bit, just because these are guys doing their jobs. And these are guys just trying to make their marks in Major League Baseball. And like I mentioned, a lot of them are young guys. So that is where my sympathy comes from to the A's. It's not that, you know, I want to, you know, dismiss the fact that they're moving, but I want to acknowledge the fact that, you know, these players are human beings. They could have played for a different team. I mean, I know arbitration at, you know, some point kind of prevents some guys from doing that, but there, you know, are guys that sign with the A's, like Luis Severino, who has a horrible ERA at home because it's a small ballpark with, you know, very hitter-friendly dimensions. And so I just want to acknowledge the fact that the A's players deserve a ton of respect right now. And I think if you're a fan of the A's still in 2025, it is probably because you care about these guys deeply. I mean, that's what sports boil down to. It's the fact that these guys make people's days, these players, whether it be hitting home runs, signing autographs, you know, doing a flashy play, whatever it may be. These players care a lot about the fans. And, you know, maybe that ranges from certain guys. I think we've seen guys over the year, you know, pour back into the community, guys like Marcus Semien, you know, a guy who went to Cal and cared about the Oakland community clearly. And maybe that's different now in Sacramento, but I think, you know, I just want to acknowledge the fact that you can still like the A's and not be, you know, a bad person by any means because you support this entity that is moving. And so I just want to get that out of the way. So my opinion on it, I kind of fall in between the fact that I love Major League Baseball and I love the Bay Area. So that gives you one option, right? I mean, you support the Giants at that point with the A's gone, and that's what I ended up kind of choosing. I mean, I knew when the A's would eventually move, if that would happen, which, you know, it is now, that I would switch teams. And I think a lot of people scoff at people who switch teams. In reality, the A's and Giants were never big rivals. It's not like you're switching from the, you know, Giants to the Dodgers or anything. But my point is, I love Major League Baseball. Like, I think it's easy to say I love baseball, so I could go support, you know, maybe an indie ball team or a minor league team, a collegiate team. Major League Baseball is the level I've been following for my whole life. I can't not watch that anymore. And look, if you don't watch Major League Baseball anymore because of the A's move, I completely respect it. That's your prerogative. Everyone is different. And that's the point I want to make in this first half of the video. You are not right or wrong if you still like the A's or hate them. You can do whatever you want. That's sports. It's not life or death. Like I said earlier, you can do whatever you want. And that's why sports are an amazing thing for America, because it allows people to come together and kind of have that common belief together supporting a team. But if there's disagreement, I mean, really at the end of the day, it's just sports. Like, that's all it boils down to. I know it's a business. I know, you know, people are impacted by teams winning and losing, and of course teams moving. But at the end of the day, if you like a team or not like a team, like, that's your business. And so if you still like the A's, my respect to you. I think you're, you know, a warrior at this point for going through everything. And look, I have A's stuff behind me. I'm not going to act like I hate the A's now. In fact, I respect the team a lot. The players, like I said, I really do respect a lot of these guys. And again, I mean, I've been following this team my whole life. It's hard to just throw away my A's memories. Again, I root for the Giants. Like, that's my team now. But at the end of the day, the A's were the team that I grew up on. It's something I'm never going to let go of. I'm still going to have some green and gold in my room at the end of the day. Just flat out. That's how it goes. But again, I respect, you know, if you're never going to watch baseball again, if you're never going to watch Major League Baseball again, that is completely cool. But for me, I do not approve of the move, but I still think the A's mean something to me. And that'll change when they go to Vegas, if and when that actually happens, because the groundbreaking is scheduled, I believe, for this upcoming week. And groundbreaking, what does that actually mean? We don't know. But I want to talk about the A's in Sacramento just for a moment, because I want to make something clear, and I probably should have made this clear earlier. My sports fandom has always been Northern California. It's not necessarily just been the Bay Area, and I know that's sort of what it falls into because the Bay Area is the, you know, largest area in NorCal. But Sacramento's a thing, and there's, regions around Northern California that have sports teams, whether or not it be, Modesto or, Stockton Ports. Like, that's a team as well. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that my fandom has always been Northern California. So that doesn't necessarily mean I've rooted for every single Northern California team, but I've had interest in those teams. Like, I don't root for the Sacramento Kings, and, I'm not a bleeding purple every day, but I go to games and I support the Sacramento Kings. I want them to win games. I don't want them to beat the Warriors, but I don't hate the Kings. Like, they've never done anything to me. So I just want to get that out of the way. Like, my loyalty has not just been on the East Bay or Oakland. I love the A's because they were in Northern California. They were close to me. It wasn't necessarily that Oakland was the end-all be-all. Like, and that kind of gets me to my point here. The A's being in Sacramento, like, if they were there permanently and had their own stadium, I would be fine with it, just because, it's NorCal, right? It's still somewhat close. And so I acknowledge not everyone's going to have that same opinion, but that's the way I see it, right? So I don't hate the fact that the A's are in Sacramento. It allows me to go to games a couple more years. I know I said earlier, I didn't know if I was ever going to do that again, but I like the fact that, they can still be around for a few more years and cherished. And I know it's probably going to be a rough time for them at that ballpark, and I'm going to get into the review of it in a little bit. But I think them being in NorCal is still special to a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to let go yet, and myself included. I kind of admitted, like, I like having the A's around a few more years, and that'll probably change when they go to Vegas. And, I felt the same about the Raiders because they announced their move in, 2017 and didn't end up leaving for a few more years. So same deal in that regard. But I just want to say, I think the A's being in Sacramento is a very mixed bag because it's more complex than you think. A lot of people, say, the fact that they're just called the Athletics, the fact that they don't really have a connection to Sacramento is a bad thing. And I agree. I think there's a lot of negatives, but I think it is cool for Sacramento fans to be able to have Major League Baseball in their city. And I know they had AAA with the River Cats, they still do, but I think it's cool for a city like that has fought tooth and nail to have professional sports. The Kings almost moved, they kept them there. They almost got the Raiders back in the 90s. They've always kind of made a push for sports. Sacramento Republic out of the USL almost made an MLS push. There's a lot of fans in Sacramento of sports, and I'm not saying that they deserve a team over Oakland, but I think for them to have a team they can cherish and kind of relate a little bit because they almost lost their team is cool. And this is all outside of the ownership. I acknowledge who's at the top. I'm separating the team from the ownership just for a moment here. But I just think for me as a fan, working in the industry, you're not really a fan anymore. I do sports media in college, and, I am a fan. Like, I root for teams, obviously, for specific reasons, but I'm not bleeding, orange and black. I'm not painting my face for a game. I support teams. I want them to win. There's teams that, I don't want to see win, but I'm not, fighting for certain teams to win the same way I did in high school. And I was in the heyday of this channel. And so I think that's one thing to acknowledge. But the point I want to make here is, objectively, no matter how you look at it, this move is sad. It's affecting a lot of people, whether it be Oakland fans, people who maybe don't live in Oakland but have supported the A's and just want to see them thrive in the Bay Area. This move is sad. It's impacting a lot of people, myself included, and it sucks that the A's are not going to be here for the next generations, for kids to come up and cherish the green and gold like they've been since 1968 in the Bay Area. So whether or not you're happy about the A's going to Vegas because maybe you live there, maybe you wanted to see them go there, like, the move is sad. It's impacting individuals more than anything that supported this team financially, going to games, spending time. And so that is one thing I need to just get out of the way. But without further ado, I want to get into my review of Sutter Health Park as a first-time visitor. I've never been to a River Cats game or an A's game there prior to this past Monday. And so I want to talk about my experience there as the A's took on the Astros. Took 2.5 hours, but made it to Sacramento. Gotta stay repping the town. But yeah, A's Astros. First time ever in West Sacramento here at the ballpark. Sutter Health, normally home to the River Cats, but we're going to watch some MLB action here as the A's take on Houston in this divisional matchup. If that wasn't clear enough, I was on Interstate 80 for a long time, just trying to get to the ballpark on time. The walk-up was really interesting. There were fans of teams, even that weren't playing in the game. A lot of Mets fans that just you could tell wanted to be there for the experience of saying they could see an A's game at a minor league ballpark. The entrance was interesting as well. When you first get in, you feel like you're at a spring training ballpark, which I think kind of goes without saying. It's a minor league feel. But, I mean, it felt like summer. I know, obviously, it is summer right now, but I feel like no matter when you go, the berm in the outfield, it added a nice touch. I liked it. I know it's not MLB grade, but it was cool to see, you know, fans with lawn chairs interacting with players, very close up. Now, I obviously didn't have a reference point. I'd never been to a River Cats game, so I couldn't speak on the renovations too much in detail. But the interesting thing is, of course, when you come in on the entrance out in right field, you notice the new scoreboard, and it's interesting because, you know, the batter's eye is a little bit funky with the old scoreboard being tarped up. Then I walked into the main concourse, which had a very intimate feel, not necessarily wide, not hard to walk through, but certainly interesting. You could see the field pretty much from anywhere in the concourse, which I kind of liked because when I eventually got up and got food, I could still see everything. The biggest thing I'll commend about this stadium is the fact that you have a good view from anywhere, and I think that goes without saying. It's not a big ballpark. There's, of course, under 15,000 seats here, but you can see everything at a good view from anywhere in this stadium. It's a good bang for your buck if you just want to watch baseball. Now we get to the fun part, because you guys know I am a memorabilia guy, as we get to the team store, of course, officially called the On Deck Shop, home of the River Cats merchandise that I presume they switch out pretty frequently. And I wanted to see, I had a challenge for myself, how much it would cost me to buy every single item in the store that had Sacramento on it somewhere. Because we know the A's are only going by athletics for this season and beyond until they go to Las Vegas. I wanted to make a challenge for myself. How much money would it cost me to buy everything that said Sacramento? So I want to show those items. So the final tally was around $300. The first item is the souvenir cup, which has the Sacramento logo on it and the A's logo on the other side. Now, I arrived at the game wearing my Oakland A's green jersey, still wanting to represent. I mean, these are the best jerseys in baseball, but I wanted to get a little bit of an update. I mean, I wanted to buy a jersey that the A's might not wear when they leave Sacramento, and that is just the same thing, but with athletics on the front. So I spent $140 on a new jersey. Yep, I did it. And this one counts as a Sacramento item because I got the patch on the sleeve. Honestly, no matter what it says, it's still a sweet jersey. I don't care it says athletics. I mean, again, you can be upset about the move, but these colors will always be the best in all of baseball. And look, I had to get a player on the back because the A's spending money a little bit. Brent Rooker, Silver Slugger, and they did his bobblehead night a few days earlier. So I wanted to immerse myself in the experience, and that patch, I mean, look, love or hate the move, that is a cool logo. So I wanted to get a new jersey, and I feel like this is a pretty cool one. Now give yourself a pat on the back if you notice this item throughout this video when I've been talking. This right here was an item at the store. It counts as it is Sutter Health Ballpark with the A's players' signatures printed on. And yeah, I mean, it counts as an item that represents Sacramento, and I like it on my wall. Why not? I mean, it's a cool item to have, and who knows how long they'll be there. Now, the A's only sell one t-shirt at the store that actually says Sacramento on it, at least in stock when I was there, and it's this athletics baseball shirt with the patch that I showed earlier. Moving along, can't forget about the pin. Says Sacramento. And then last but not least, the patch that they put on the jerseys. So got everything that says Sacramento at an A's game, so you didn't have to. The store overall wasn't bad. I think the A's store at the Coliseum was great just because it had a lot of variety and stuff that represented the city. They don't really do that much. As you can see, there's only about 5 items that actually say Sacramento. So if you're looking for civic pride stuff, the On Deck Shop, you're not going to get much of it there. Then I headed to my seats for game time. As you can see, I was on the Astros side. You can see everything so clearly. I mean, look, love or hate this ballpark. I know the players have talked about it. The mound doesn't work right. Obviously, pitchers don't like pitching there for that reason and the fact that the ball flies. But as a fan, you can see everything. I thought it was funny that they would play the Let's Go A's chant sounds because that is the new chant that they want the fans to sing at games. No more Let's Go Oakland. Very hard to enforce that at games. I still heard a lot of Let's Go Oakland. I heard some Let's Go A's, but of course, just not the same. This ended up being a really cool game to watch. I mean, definitely a pitcher's duel. The A's would eventually win, but we'll get into that in a moment. Saw Jose Altuve rip a 440-foot bomb to left field, and I mean, this ball really flies. You can't even see it leave the yard. That's the type of ballpark this is, because it's so caved in, you just don't know where the ball's going to go. Looking at the food, they actually had a good amount of variety. Of course, you know, a ballpark needs to have a variety of food items. I just got the hot dog. I kept it simple and got my souvenir soda. But if you wanted to get Mexican food, you know, pizza, they had it all. And I think that variety I definitely appreciated. Took a quick glimpse at the Solon Club, which is the new luxury seating, which didn't look super special. I felt like, you know, you honestly get a better view from the 100 level that I was on. But I'm sure that, you know, other fans could speak on that who actually sat up there. The retired numbers were interesting. They're on the concourse, on the walls as banners, and I know the A's didn't necessarily treat the retired numbers super well in Oakland either, putting tarps on Mount Davis, but I feel like I'd like to see those represented more. I mean, those are huge figures, you know, that have connected themselves, and of course with, you know, the recent passing of Rickey Henderson, to have more of a tribute to him with his retired number, maybe somewhere in the outfield, I think would have been a lot cooler, as those were just on the concourse on a concrete wall. The A's cast desk, very visible. I think a lot of fans have gotten in on getting in the background of that lately. I think my overall takeaway from Sutter Health Park, especially when it became nighttime, is the optics of this stadium are admittedly not good. Like you see a baseball team at the major league level playing at a minor league park. The optics are not good of that. But the positive for me, as I take away my experience, is the vibes were great. Like, optics bad, vibes great is my biggest takeaway, because I felt like when it became night, you could see everything. It just felt like baseball. You forgot a little bit about the move. You said, wow, this is a fun baseball game to be at. And the A's ended up winning on a walk-off home run from Nick Kurtz, the rookie. And I mean, he pimped it to right field. Really cool to see. I mean, look, not a lot of fans at this game, but to see everyone get excited that the A's had won a game over a division rival was cool. Before the walk-off, Mason Miller came in for the A's to pitch, and of course his intro played. I know he has not had the best season for his standards after being an all-star last year, but cool to see the A's highlighting one of their better players with a video like that and darkening the field for a moment. My favorite part of all of this was seeing the Astros players having to walk all the way to center field after losing on a walk-off home run because there are no clubhouses connected to the dugouts, so they have to walk all the way to center field. And I mean, what a walk of shame after losing. I just thought it was funny. I know that Mark Kotze earlier in the year got ejected and had to walk all the way out to the outfield because, you know, can't stay in the dugout. So that was really funny to me. And again, that's nothing new. The A's have played now, you know, about half a season in Sacramento, but definitely an interesting thing that I noted. And then that was it. I was a little bit sad when the A's won. They didn't play Celebration by Kool and the Gang. That was their win song for years in Oakland and was very nostalgic for me. They didn't play that. They just played some generic music after they won the game. So that definitely, you know, struck a chord a little bit. I wanted to see them, you know, have some of that connection back to Oakland in that way where they used to play that song. But that was it. Walking out, you know, definitely an interesting experience. You can park right next to the ballpark if you'd like. It's pretty easy, and overall an interesting experience. I note the positives. Some of the negatives, again, it's a minor league park. You don't have all the amenities. From a fan standpoint, though, not a bad experience. I didn't sit there and thought, well, I'd rather be somewhere else. I think from a player's perspective, I completely understand, though, for the A's, you know, being a major leaguer, you want to play in a major league park at home, and they can't do that. And even for the away players, specifically the pitchers, I heard about what the Minnesota Twins were saying about the mound being too hard and being dangerous almost. Like, that is a completely valid concern. And again, being a very hitters-friendly ballpark too, you know, it's very hard to pitch there in that way. So I completely understand it. I think as a fan, the vibes were high, the optics were not amazing, but I had a good time. And I'm not going to shy away from that, even in light of everything that's going on with the A's and the move. I had a positive experience at Sutter Health Park, and maybe you will too. It's a place I'd recommend watching a game at, whether it be River Cats or A's. And I know in 2025, for a lot of people, it's hard to support the A's because they're moving. But if you want, go to a game and judge it from a critical lens, and you know, let me know in the comments what you think about Sutter Health Park. So that'll just about do it. Let me know your thoughts on the Sacramento A's experience if you've gone. Thank you again for tuning in. My name is Casey. Have a great rest of your day.